Now let's move along. Welcome in our next guest. He is one of the last Strikeforce heavyweights ever. And on January 12th, he will fight on the last Strikeforce card against Dion Staring. He is DC Daniel Cormier, and he joins us right now. Daniel, how are you?
I'm good, Ariel. How you doing, man?
Big night tonight. You pumped?
Well, what do you mean?
Well, I thought you were a huge Knicks fan. Knicks against Rockets. Come on, man. What are you, off the bandwagon?
Yes, I am very much a bandwagon jumper. I've been joking about now my football team's the Atlanta Falcons, and then last year I really liked the Miami Heat, but now that's changed because they're not the best team in the NBA anymore. So I'm a winner, man. I'm a front runner.
All right. Well, we welcome you. We're happy to have you on the bandwagon.
I really do like the Rockets, so I'm kind of rooting for the Rockets tonight against the Knicks.
All right. Well, thanks for joining us, Daniel. A pleasure to have you here.
Oh, it's good, man. It's been way too long, huh?
No, I was actually saying goodbye to you after you said that thing about the Rockets and the Knicks. I was saying pleasure to have you here and see you later. You didn't get it.
Well, I mean, you can rush me off if you want, but there's really only one team in New York, and that's my Brooklyn Nets.
Oh, and now if I were there, I would slap you right in the face. If I were,
that?
And then I would run away. No, but honestly, it is good to hear from you. And of course, you have this big fight. Finally, you will fight one last time. We're crossing our fingers the fight actually happens, but I think it's going to happen this time against Dion Staring. I want to know your reaction when you found out you were fighting Dion. Was it like the rest of the MMA community who collectively seemed to have said, who?
I think, it was kind of, I was like, well, I heard, I was going to fight Frank Mir. And then right afterwards, I was hearing that the Matt Mitrione. So I was kind of under the impression it was going to be a UFC guy because then Fabricio Verdum was saying, just a whole bunch of names being floated around. And then when they told me who I was fighting, the only way I knew who Dion was, honestly, was because he was supposed to fight Mike Kyle in September.
Right.
So it was kind of that way, but then it was, refocus, recharge, and then start preparing for Dion Staring.
Have you watched a lot of film on him?
I've watched some. I mean, I'm not a guy that watches a ton of film on guys. I didn't do it much in wrestling, and because you don't want to really like start focusing on something a guy does time and time again, and then he comes into the fight and you're expecting that thing, and then it's something completely different. So I've watched a little bit just to kind of get an idea of how he fights, but nothing I'm going to base how I'm going to fight him on.
So what's the DC scouting report on Dion Staring?
Man, he's very tough. He's a guy that's he's fought anyone. He fights anyone that they put in front of him. He's a guy that brings a fight every time. I mean, just because the guy isn't very well known doesn't mean that he's not a good fighter. And I think Dion's a very good fighter.
Mentally, though, was it initially hard to get up for this fight because you had a huge fight against Mir, then talks of some other UFC guys? I mean, this is a drop in at least name opponent, right? Oh,
yeah, definitely. I mean, well, there aren't many guys that you're going to get that their name value is as high as Frank Mir, and then, to hear Matt Mitrione, who main evented the UFC card just last weekend, and then come to find out Czech Congo was also offered to fight. So there are some pretty decent names being thrown around, and to get a guy that's never fought in the United States before, Strikeforce or the UFC, it's obviously going to be a drop-off in name value, but, it's all relative to what I'm trying to do. This is just another step in my journey in terms of getting to the UFC and getting big fights.
Did you ask Strikeforce why Dion?
No, never did. I've never really done that. I've never really been the one to sit out and call guys out and try to set my next fight or this fight or whoever. But so when they said that's who you're fighting, I just took it as such. I mean, it's not my job to make fights. I tried that, and people kind of jumped down my throat for trying to fight Jon Jones, and that's really not me. But obviously, that's kind of the way it needs to be now.
It's an interesting situation because the light is there at the end of the tunnel. After January 12th, come January 13th, you are a UFC fighter. Is it hard to not focus on that? Is it hard Or do you find yourself at times maybe looking past January 12th and just dreaming about what it's going to be like come January 13th and beyond?
Well, I don't think I'll never look past my opponent, but obviously it's a natural, human nature to think about what's going to happen in the future. Uh, I was doing pretty good at actually just focusing on my fight until you did that interview with Frank Mir last weekend, and then that kind of opened my eyes to it and go, well, you know what, man, maybe this fight can happen, and I'm in line for some pretty big fights right away.
Yeah, so I spoke to Frank Mir in Seattle. You can see that on the Fuel TV website or youtube.com/Fuel TV. He talked about the injury that forced him out of the bout against you, and that was supposed to take place in November, also in Oklahoma City, but said upon his return, he would still like to fight you. Is that the fight that interests you most, upon your UFC debut?
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's the fight that I want. Listen, Frank Mir and I have some unfinished business. I had to put in a full training camp for Frank, and to not get to fight him at the end of it was pretty disappointing. So hopefully I get through this fight with Dion. The hand. Hopefully the hand holds up this time, and I don't break it or anything, and I can win the fight, and then move on to Frank. I would like to fight Dion in January, and then hopefully. I know the Montreal card's filling up pretty nicely, but the one right after that, I'd like for Frank and I to be on that card ready to fight.
So despite the fact that Frank, and he is coming off a loss to the champion, but you look spectacular. You're going to have a lot of buzz and a lot of momentum behind you. And let's be honest, there's no clear-cut number one guy at heavyweight right now in the UFC. You've got Overeem fighting Bigfoot, but you beat Bigfoot. And who knows what happens with Overeem. You got some other guys out there. You would rather fight Mir, a guy coming off a loss, than maybe, one of those 2-3 guys to be right up there for a title shot?
Well, I mean, I think by fighting Frank Mir, it doesn't eliminate you from a title shot.
Sure.
Honestly, I thought that if I fought Frank in November, I could ask for an immediate title shot because of the list of opponents I would have put back to back. And no knock on Dion, I just don't think if I win that fight, it warrants me calling for an immediate title shot, as I would have if I would have beaten Frank Mir, who is a former UFC champion. So not based on Dion's fighting ability, but, again, name recognition, I don't think I can ask for an immediate title shot after that fight.
But you don't think wins over Bigfoot and Barnett and the way you beat them warrant getting the title shot by themselves? Dion is like icing on the cake.
Well, I think it did, but then I think it needs to be there's just a lot of ways, to lose this fight, like with Dion. I could lose this fight. Dion's a guy that actually can make fights look pretty bad. He ties you up and he makes the fight ugly. That's a way I could lose this fight. Just a number of ways to lose a lot of things in this fight. And Ariel, don't play with your phone.
Yeah, what's going on? People are calling me in the middle. I tried to turn it off.
Don't play with your phone.
I have a funny. You would never guess who's calling me right now. Unbelievable. Anyhow, sorry about that.
But it's just. I just think that when it comes to the organization and everything else, I've got to beat a guy like Frank or a guy like Josh, for that matter, that actually held the belt before.
Right.
Before you start asking for title shots.
Okay, so I know you hate this, but I mean, it's right there. I mean, we are coming at a collision here. December 29th, your good friend Cain Velasquez is fighting for the title. What will you do if he wins? You win. What are you going to do? Hey, Daniel, I'm talking to you. Who are you talking to over there? I mean, you talk about being rude. Really?
Oh, I'm talking to my girlfriend. She's actually over here making she has her hand puppets that she uses with our children.
Okay.
And she's doing it right behind me, right behind the computer.
She's trying to mess you up right now?
Yeah, she doesn't.
She could do that. I love hand puppets. Does she want to get some? Oh, okay, fine. No, but honestly, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? Because Nate Diaz said if he won the belt in Seattle, Gilbert Melendez was going down to 145. Are you going to do the same?
Well, my first UFC fight is going to be against Frank Mir, regardless of what happens.
Okay.
I mean, so then I've got a decision to make. There's a lot of things. I think the UFC's made it pretty clear that Alistair Overeem is the guy they want to fight next for the belt. I mean, that's, he was actually pretty close to getting a title shot after the suspension.
Sure.
So there's some work to be done for Cain and myself before that actually becomes our reality. I mean, I could lose to Dion Staring. I could lose to Frank Mir afterwards, and I could be, 3, 4 fights away from a championship, or I could win both of those fights, and then we really got a conversation to have, right?
Oh yeah. I mean, what happens then in that scenario
Well,
as far
I
as
mean,
training?
I think it's a likely scenario, honestly.
Yeah.
I expect Kane to win at the end of the year, and I think Kane will beat Alistair Overeem too, or whoever is the guy that fights him for the belt. And then what we do is we all get together as a group, my management team, which is also Kane's management team, our training partners, coaches, and we see where we go forward. Ideally, I would much rather not fight Kane, as Kane has said himself. Um, so I would I'd explore my options. One being going down to the weight below.
Here's a crazy scenario for you, and a very possible scenario. You win on January 12th. 2 weeks prior to that, Cain Velasquez beats Junior Dos Santos, right? A month later, Bigfoot Silva beats Alistair Overeem, right? Cain Velasquez
Yes.
already demolished Bigfoot Silva. You, my
Yes,
friend, are
and
the
I did too. Let's not forget I did too.
Of course, you're the number one contender.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well, I mean that's
we could be talking about this situation come February 3rd. This could be a very real situation come February 3rd.
Well, I mean, then that's a conversation that we all have to sit on and have. I mean, uh, again, it's not really our reality. I like to kind of live in the here and now. Like right now, I've got to focus on getting past this fight. He's got to win this fight, and if Bigfoot Silva wins, then we got some stuff to discuss.
How's he looking?
Kane,
Yeah.
he's looking fantastic. He's looking as sharp as I've seen him in a really long time, and that's why the confidence level's so high for me, because as a training partner, as a friend, and as a guy that actually does all of his wrestling, I haven't seen him look this good since before we went to the Brock Lesnar fight. So he's sharp, man.
Are you over the Jon Jones stuff?
Well, not really. I mean, I would still like to fight Jon Jones if I had that opportunity, but you got to kind of take a step back. I fight at heavyweight, and obviously, I've got some work to do before I warrant getting to fight Jon Jones.
But do you? I mean, again, the Chael Sonnen thing, right? According to him, right? But you feel like he disrespected you?
Well, I think there are a number of ways you can look at things, and by saying that, what's it based on? I've won every fight I've been in, and I've done everything everybody's asked me to do. So, in that sense, a little. But I mean, he can look at it as I'm disrespecting him by calling him out over and over again when he's probably the number 1 and 2 fighter in the world. And I haven't really been fighting as long as or accomplished the things that he has. But you know what, man? It's what is it based on? What is it based on? And trust me, Ariel, I tell you this with 100% confidence. If I was ever offered that fight, there would be no hesitation in signing the contract.
Wow. And you be ready, willing, able to cut the weight, right?
Oh, I do it. I mean, I've actually been in training camp here, and I'm a month out from my fight, and I've actually been lighter than I was even at the end of my training camp for the Barnett fight. So it's really good.
Is there something about Jon that you just don't like, or do you just like that matchup very much?
Well, I think it's a good matchup, and also I think he's the best. I mean, I really do think Jon Jones is the best. And as a competitor, I've always wanted to compete against the best. I mean, when I wrestled in the Olympic semifinals against a guy named Gutsalov from Russia, who was a Olympic champion and 6-time world champion. And there was nothing that got me as excited. I never beat the guy. The guy beat me 3 times over the course of my career, but every time we wrestled, I felt like, okay, this is what I've trained for every day for the past year, 2 years, 3 years. So as I prepare for my fight with Dion, I'm preparing for Junior Dos Santos. I'm preparing for Jon Jones, because I always believe that if you prepare for the best guy, everybody else is took care of.
The Josh Koscheck situation, the black cloud that was Koscheck, and I'm not saying this because he's a bad guy, but just that drama with the reality show and whatnot, has it gone away?
Yeah, it's done, man. I think Josh has moved on. We don't really know what's going on in terms of him getting scheduled for fights or anything, but he's moved on and we have. I mean, you got to realize that in our gym right now, it's a really busy time. You know, we've got Kane's fight on December 29th, Todd Duffy's fight on December 29th, Mike Kyle fights on January 12th with me, King Mo fights the following 2 weeks afterwards, and then John Fitch fights right around Super Bowl. So it's a great time to be a part of AKA, and you know, there's no reason to be worrying about what another guy's done because Josh has moved on, so we have to.
Yeah, I was just about to mention that. It's an unbelievable stretch coming up for you guys, end of the year to February. I just want to ask you quickly about Todd Duffy. You mentioned him. Where's his head at? He's been a bit of an enigma, if you will. Do you feel like he's putting it all together?
You know, the thing about Todd is physically he's never had any issues. You know, physically Todd Duffy is probably one of the most gifted guys that I've ever trained with or been around. You know, he's strong. I make this joke that he has the strength of 10 men and the strength of like 80 hippies, you know, because he's so big and strong. But he physically, he never had a problem. It's mentally, you know, and right now Todd seems to be in a pretty good place up top. And the guy that he's fighting, Phil, is going to be in for a tough night if he's not very well prepared.
Now, here's an amazing thing. I don't know if a lot of people know this, but come December 28th and December 29th, you and I, Daniel, you will have the honor of being called my colleague on Fuel TV. We will be working together on the UFC 155 coverage. First things first, how are you going to be cornering Cain Velasquez and working on TV?
Well, you see, that's my that was our dilemma. But Ariel, okay, I just got a couple suits made because I have to look great.
Oh yeah.
By this great company, Bello Verde, 2 free suits.
Whoa.
So they're dressing me, and what I'm gonna do is I made sure Cain Velasquez's walkout T-shirt matches my suit pants, so that I don't look like a complete fool walking to the cage, and then trying to rush back to the set. But I'm excited, man. This is something that I've wanted to do for a long time, and I'm very grateful to everybody at Fuel TV and the UFC for actually giving me a chance to do it.
I've often said that you are one of the smartest minds in the game as far as analysts go. I'm so happy that they're finally giving you this opportunity to do it. I think you're going to do great. But honestly, how are you going to transition? I mean, on fight night, how are you going to take off the hat of being his friend and teammate? You know, it could happen. He could lose again. And then go there and speak honestly about his fight.
Well, I mean, if you look back, you know, I had to do that before. You know, I did MMA Live on ESPN right before he fought the first time, and I gave my genuine idea of what I thought the fight was going to play out. And then Cain lost. And then I went back the following week and gave a fair assessment of what happened. Listen, if anybody can break down that fight, it's me because I'm so close to it. I'm at the cage.
Sure.
So imagine the experience. What guy's done that? You know, going from the cage and cornering a guy to go back and break down the fight when it's fresh. You know, so the emotion you're going to get is going to be as real as anybody can have. You know, so I think it's going to be great. I you know, I have to be professional. You know, you have to be professional, and obviously the people at Fuel TV feel that I can do that, and I know I can. You know, you said you're right. There is a chance Cain loses this fight, and if he does, I will have to hold my tongue so that I'm not trying to choke Junior Dos Santos as he sits right next to me in a post-fight interview, I guess.
Could be a cool moment, A, if Junior's sitting there and you call him out, or B, if Cain is sitting there and you call him out. You can't go wrong either way.
It's going to be – well, I mean, you know, when you look at the rankings and you see a guy that's actually that close, myself, to the belt, it's going to be pretty cool to actually see that guy right on set with the person that wins that belt. That's actually going to be a pretty cool moment. I tell Cain I expect him to win on December 29th, so he's going to actually make me do something I never thought I'd have to do again, and that's cut weight.
Wow.
It sucks.
Well, you know what? How about you tell those guys who gave you the free suits to hook a brother up as well? Because, you know, I could use some free suits as well.
Well, first thing you're going to have to do is say the name of the company.
Oh, yeah. Can you say it again?
Oh, Bello Verde
is
a suit company.
All right.
Yes, you have to first say that, and then maybe, just maybe, I can get you a nice blazer to wear over your jeans, because there's one thing you're not doing, and that's wearing a full suit, Ariel. I've seen you for the past 4 years.
That's true.
And it's always tennis shoes and jeans.
Whoa, they're not tennis shoes. Those are real high fashion Nikes. I mean, you're not going to play, you know, a couple of sets on the nearby court with those shoes, my friend.
Ariel, I'm telling you one thing. Those tennis shoes you wear, they would fit at the what's the arena over in Brooklyn?
Oh, don't even say the Barclays Center.
You can wear those at the Barclays because hey, if those are high fashion, the Barclays Center is a high fashion, nice type of place. You know?
Hey, I was there last
Not
night.
like Garden.
I was there at WWE TLC, the pay-per-view at the Barclays Center last night. Did you see me on TV? I was sitting front row.
I didn't see you because I didn't watch it, man. I've kind of lost interest in it. You know, I go through these phases where for about a month I like it, and then I get over it, and then I don't know what's going on with me, man. I can't commit to the professional wrestling like I used to. I guess I'm getting too old.
I know what you mean. I'm kind of out of it, but I have some friends there. I don't want to name drop, you know, the WWE champion, et cetera, et cetera. But anyway, point being.
Oh, listen.
Okay.
Ariel, go ahead and say his name. I mean, I see it on all your tweets anyway.
Well,
so go ahead and say, "Oh, I'm friends with CM Punk."
Well,
say it, Ariel.
No, it's okay. I'm not that kind of guy, you know. But I'm just saying, you know, you got to go support your friends. He's injured, so you know, just there to offer moral support. Sure, I was hanging out backstage, but that's no big deal.
Hey, Ariel, I've done that too, bud. Trust me, I've done that too. I mean,
actually, I didn't get to do it. I asked, did you really do it? Because I would love to do it.
One time I was actually considering doing it after the 2004 Olympic Games. They had me as a guest, and I got to go backstage with Kurt Angle. It was back when Kurt Angle was still the man, you know?
Oh, yeah.
It's cool.
It's like...
But I didn't do it. He told me to keep wrestling. Kurt actually told me to keep wrestling. He goes, because WWF is going to be around, or WWE is going to be around. He goes, so you should try and become an Olympic champion.
Wow. Good advice from Kurt.
Yeah, I know. It was cool.
Well, Daniel, we got to run. We've got Pat Barry waiting for us, but great to catch up with you. I look forward to working with you. First things first, December 28th and 29th on Fuel TV. That will be in Las Vegas. Then you got the big fight on January 12th. You got the Kane fight on December 29th, of course. Great things for you and the family and the team over there at AKA. Happy holidays, and I'll see you in Las Vegas in a couple of weeks.
Hey, thanks, man. I appreciate it. Listen, I feel honored to be one of the last people on the very last show of the year, right?
Listen.
I did a backflip when you invited me.
You've had a big year. You weren't as active as I would have liked, but I will be there, by the way, in Oklahoma City for that fight, so don't let me down.
No, you're not. No, you're not. That's impossible. You have never been. Hey, listen, don't sit here and lie to me face to face. I cannot. Last time I saw you at a Strikeforce fight was whenever in Dallas, when Alistair fought Verdum. I haven't seen you since. Do not lie to me, Aaron.
I was in Cincinnati in September, 3 months later.
And I fought Bigfoot Silva?
I was there, and we have an interview.
No, you weren't, dude. Nobody was there.
Listen, that is true. No one was there, but I'll send you the interview. I was there. I was really there. And
I remember now.
I was at Miesha Tate Ronda Rousey in March, and my friend, I will be there with my tennis shoes and my jeans January 12th in Oklahoma City.
Hey, when you talk about fashion, listen, don't talk to me about fashion. You look at Rory McDonald. That's fashion.
Oh, my God. Let's not get started. He knocks me off my feet, that guy. Gets me all sweaty and whatnot. All right, Daniel. Appreciate the time. Good luck to you. We'll see you very soon.
All right, man. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
There he is, DC Daniel Cormier, joining us on the MMA Hour. Huge fight for him on January 12th in Oklahoma City, his backyard, the Chesapeake Energy Arena over in Oklahoma City. That is, of course, the home of the Oklahoma City Thunder.